You've been told Alzheimer's is just bad luck or bad genes, that it's written in stone. But new research says something radically different. Your brain's future may depend on habits you can start today. The surprising part is, most seniors are doing the exact opposite without even realizing it. Dr. Harper, I've got to tell you, this topic, it's personal for me. My mom used to believe she was destined to lose her memory because her mother had dementia. She'd say, "It's in the family. There's nothing I can do." And for years, I believed her. But I just read a study out of the University of California that said lifestyle changes, actual doable changes, could lower Alzheimer's risk by as much as 40%, even in people with a family history. And honestly, my first reaction was, so all those years we might have been fighting the wrong battle?
That's the heartbreaking truth, Susan. The study you're talking about, published in Alzheimer's and Dementia earlier this year, tracked more than 1,200 seniors for a decade. They looked at genetics, lifestyle habits, and cognitive health over time. And yes, genetics mattered, but they weren't the whole story. In fact, the seniors who made even modest improvements in exercise, diet, and sleep saw risk reductions of up to 40%. That's huge. But here's the catch. Most people never hear that message. They assume the fate is sealed, so they stop trying. And that decision, giving up, may be the single most dangerous choice they make.
So the very belief that nothing can be done becomes part of the problem.
Exactly. It's like thinking you can't prevent a fire, so you stop checking the smoke alarms. The fire still comes, maybe even sooner, because you ignored the small warnings.
You know, that reminds me of something. My neighbor, Frank, he's 76, had been forgetting little things. He laughed it off, said it was just senior moments. But when I ran into him last month, his wife told me his doctor finally diagnosed mild cognitive impairment. She said the doctor believes some changes years ago could have delayed it. And that it just breaks my heart.
That's a perfect example, and there's science to back it up. A 25-year study from Finland, published in The Lancet Neurology, took seniors at risk of dementia and put them through a program combining aerobic exercise with mental training, things like learning new skills or practicing memory tasks. Over 2 years, MRI scans showed measurable increases in brain volume in the areas that control memory and reasoning.
Growing? At that age? That's not what we've been told.
Exactly. Most people picture the brain as shrinking with age, and that's partly true. But under the right conditions, it can still rewire, rebuild connections, and protect itself. The problem is, most seniors are doing daily things that undermine that growth, often without realizing it.
Such as?
Well, diet is a big one. A lot of people think cutting fat is the best thing for heart and brain health, but a Harvard study from last year found that older adults who regularly consumed healthy fats, like olive oil, fatty fish, and nuts, scored significantly better on memory tests after 5 years than those who avoided fats. The brain is almost 60% fat by weight. It needs those omega-3s and monounsaturated fats to function. So that low-fat toast and jelly breakfast, it might be starving the brain of what it needs.
My mom had dry toast every morning, thinking it was healthy.
She's not alone. I've had patients proudly tell me they eat clean by avoiding fats entirely, but meanwhile they're loading up on processed carbs that spike blood sugar, and high blood sugar is strongly linked to increased dementia risk. That's not just theory. Multiple studies have shown that insulin resistance, even before diabetes develops, can harm brain cells. That's why Alzheimer's is sometimes called type 3 diabetes. If you're sleeping poorly for years, that protein can build up silently until symptoms appear.
I have to admit, I've had more sleepless nights than I can count, and I never connected that to brain health.
Most people don't. That's why education is so critical. And Susan, I think this is a good place to plant the seed for your listeners. There's one daily habit, backed by research from Cambridge University, that appears to have the most dramatic protective effect on the brain. It's something almost anyone can do, starting today.
And you're going to make us wait for it, aren't you?
Guilty, because I want people to really understand why it works before they try it. We'll get to it soon, but first, I think your audience needs to hear about the earliest warning signs most seniors miss, the ones that show up years before the first memory slip. If we can catch those early, prevention becomes much more possible.
That's the part that scares me, because if the signs are subtle, most of us won't notice until it's too late.
True, but once you know what to look for, they're not invisible. And that's where we'll start after the break.
All right. Dr. Harper, you've dingled the carrot. You've told us there's this one habit from Cambridge research that can dramatically protect the brain. But before we get there, you said we need to talk about the early warning signs most seniors miss. I have to say I'm both curious and a little nervous.
That's natural, Susan, but here's the truth. Alzheimer's doesn't appear overnight. The brain can be changing for 10 to 20 years before memory problems are obvious. And during that time, the body sends subtle signals. Miss them, and we lose precious years of prevention. Notice them, and we can take action while the brain is still resilient.
So what are we talking about? I'm guessing it's not just forgetting where you put your keys.
Correct. Losing your keys once in a while is normal. What I'm talking about is a pattern. Small changes that don't feel alarming on their own. For example, one of the earliest signs isn't memory loss at all. It's losing your sense of smell. A 2023 study from the University of Chicago followed 1,400 older adults for 12 years. Those who experienced a significant drop in their ability to smell everyday scents, like coffee or soap, were more than twice as likely to develop dementia later. Why? Because the olfactory nerve, which processes smell, is closely linked to the hippocampus, the brain's memory center.
I've never heard that before. Losing your sense of smell could be a brain warning sign?
Absolutely. Another early clue is changes in mood or personality that don't seem to have a cause, becoming more anxious, irritable, or withdrawn. Johns Hopkins researchers recently found that seniors who developed unexplained depression or anxiety were at significantly higher risk of cognitive decline within 5 years. The changes were linked to inflammation in brain areas tied to both emotion and memory.
That makes me think of a friend's father. He was always outgoing, but a couple of years before his diagnosis, he just stopped joining family dinners. Everyone thought it was just old age, but now...
Exactly. We often misinterpret these shifts as personality changes or normal aging, but they can be neurological. And here's a third big one, trouble with spatial awareness. If someone starts misjudging distances, bumping into furniture, or struggling to follow a map in a familiar neighborhood, it can point to changes in the brain's parietal lobe. A team in Sweden found that this kind of navigational decline could precede memory issues by up to 7 years.
These are things you'd never think to connect to Alzheimer's, which makes me wonder how many people listening right now might already be seeing these signs in themselves or someone they love.
Quite a few, I'd imagine. And that's why awareness is power here. The earlier we act, the more effective the prevention. And this brings us back to that Cambridge University finding I teased earlier.
Finally, tell us.
The research, published just last year, found that the single most powerful daily habit to protect brain health in older adults was brisk walking for at least 30 minutes combined with mental engagement during the walk. We're talking about listening to an audiobook, practicing a new language, or even mentally rehearsing names and faces of people you know. This dual engagement, physical and cognitive, created a synergistic effect, improving blood flow, reducing inflammation, and strengthening neural pathways.
So it's not just exercise, and it's not just mental work, it's doing both at the same time?
Exactly. Think of it like cross-training for your brain. The study tracked over 600 seniors for 3 years. Those who combined walking with active mental stimulation had a 55% lower risk of developing mild cognitive impairment compared to those who did just one of the two activities, and the benefits were measurable within 6 months.
You're telling me I can lower my Alzheimer's risk just by walking and, say, listening to a mystery novel?
Yes, but the key is consistency. 3 or more times a week, ideally daily. And here's a tip I give my patients. Walk a familiar route sometimes and a new one other times. The new routes challenge the brain to process novel information, which strengthens spatial navigation skills, one of the early areas to decline.
I can already hear people saying, I can do that, but I also know some will think it's too late for me.
It is never too late to make an impact. Even seniors in their late 80s have shown measurable cognitive improvements from lifestyle changes. A meta-analysis in 2024 looked at 52 separate studies and found that interventions worked at every age group studied. The biggest tragedy is when people stop trying because they think the window has closed.
That feels like the most important message today.
I agree. And in part 3, I want to give your listeners a simple at-home brain health check they can do right now, no equipment, no cost, that can flag early risks and help guide a conversation with their doctor.
Oh, we're not letting you leave without that one. All right, Dr. Harper, you've given us some surprising early warning signs and a Cambridge-backed daily habit that honestly sounds so doable it's almost hard to believe. But you promised something else, a simple at-home brain health check. I think people are leaning forward right now.
They should be, because this one's quick, free, and surprisingly accurate at flagging early issues. It's called the clock drawing test. Here's how it works. You take a blank sheet of paper, draw a circle to represent a clock, and then write in all the numbers where they should go. Finally, set the hands to a specific time, say 10 past 11. It sounds simple, but it requires multiple brain functions at once: visual spatial skills, executive function, and memory. If the numbers are misplaced, crowded on one side, or if the hands don't clearly show the right time, it can indicate changes that deserve a professional evaluation.
That's so simple, and yet it's testing more than people realize.
Exactly. And here's the important part. Don't panic if it's not perfect. Fatigue, stress, or even vision issues can affect it. But if you see consistent trouble, or if it's getting harder over time, that's when you bring it to your doctor. And here's where I want to address something a lot of seniors struggle with: the feeling that their doctor doesn't really listen.
Oh, I've heard that so many times. People leave the appointment feeling dismissed.
It's a real problem, which is why I tell my patients to go in with a short, specific script. Something like, I'm concerned about changes in my memory, and here are 3 examples from the last month. That frames it in a way that's hard to brush aside. And if you can, bring a family member who's noticed the changes too. Doctors respond to clear, concrete information.
That's such an important point because without those specifics, it's easy for memory concerns to get filed under normal aging.
Exactly. And speaking of normal aging, let's bust one more myth before we wrap up. The idea that once decline starts, it's all downhill. That's simply not true. We have evidence that brain function can stabilize or even improve with the right interventions. For example, a 2024 study in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience showed that seniors who combined strength training with a Mediterranean-style diet improved their cognitive scores by an average of 15% over 2 years. That's not just slowing decline, that's measurable improvement.
I think that's the hope people need, that it's not too late, that the effort is worth it.
And that's my biggest message today. Every step you take counts. Whether it's walking with a podcast, switching from white bread to whole grains, getting an extra 30 minutes of sleep, or staying socially engaged, it all adds up. And here's one more practical tip. Protect your hearing. Hearing loss is strongly linked to dementia risk because it reduces the brain's sensory input and social engagement. Get tested every couple of years, and if you need hearing aids, use them. That alone can make a huge difference in brain resilience.
It's almost like every part of the body is connected to brain health.
It is. The brain is not a separate island. It's influenced by heart health, immune health, gut health, even oral health. Neglect one, and the brain pays the price.
Dr. Harper, you've given us so much today. We've learned that Alzheimer's isn't always inevitable, that there are warning signs years before memory loss, and that daily habits, simple ones, can change the game. And for anyone listening who's feeling worried, I hope you hear this. It's never too late to start protecting your brain. Next week, we're tackling something every senior needs to know, the hidden signs of bone loss that can put your independence at risk long before you feel any pain. You do not want to miss this one.
I'll be here for that one, Susan. And until then, I hope every listener takes one small step today for their brain health, because those steps over time can change everything.